Hello and welcome to Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life. This is Jared, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Johanna.
Do we still do the Hey Jared?
Yeah, you gotta say Hey Jared.
Well, I don't.
Oh, Hey Jared.
Hey Johanna. Welcome back to part 2 of Cat Behavior, the podcast about people with cats who don't want to be crazy cat people.
I don't think that's what we're talking about.
Oh, that was just a metaphor.
Right.
Cat behavior being secondary mostly behavior where we're developing a behavior management plan for kids that are being purposeful in their decision making to misbehave in the way that a cat purposefully knocks the water over as opposed to a kindergartner dog who is just so excited that the wagging tail can't help but knock the glass over.
Right. So this is part 2. So if they haven't listened to part 1, they might want to go back.
Should go back because we're just going to jump. It was all recorded at once, but it was too long.
No. This is part 2. This is we're going into it now.
I know, but like they want to listen to the first part of that recording.
Oh, sure.
In the previous episode of this podcast.
Right.
Because we're just jumping right into the middle of another thing. Even though we're introducing it now separately, it's really just one thing. You won't know what's happening. It'll be like watching Infinity War without watching 10 years of Marvel movies beforehand. You don't want to do that. Which you did. And it was okay.
I did.
Like, it would be better if you knew who Doctor Strange was and stuff.
Probably, yes.
So go listen to the previous episode of this podcast, and then we'll first hit pause. Or back, or whatever it is on your phone. Go listen to that one, then you'll be right back here, and we'll be ready to go with part 2. With a lot of things, you could pretend that there wasn't a problem and yell at it until you wish it went away, but...
Well, because it will work. Yelling will work, potentially time 1, 2, and 3. Time 4, that's going to go away pretty quick. Time 5, you're definitely losing it. By time 6, they're finding it fun, and they're figuring out ways to just ignite the fire as a true team. Like now it's definitely us versus them, and learning has become second to entertainment, and you are the show.
I like that you pick on 16-year-old girls as willing to burn things down as opposed to famously level-headed 16-year-old boys. They're very reasonable and won't pursue conflict for its own sake.
Boys are more willing to use the quiet zone.
Okay.
Because a lot of times their conflict is with other boys.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they can pick up their work and either go sit, like I happen to have a VIP zone, which is like my teacher help desk area. So if they can choose to pick up and sit in the VIP zone, they will. Or if they're like too frustrated for that, they'll just pick up and go sit in that chair. They might stare down the kid that's driving them crazy, but there again, like it resolves a lot more quickly. Girls tend to be more eager to want to up the communication.
If we're escalating from level 3, are we to a major essentially then? Is that the next level after that?
No. So level 4 for me, and this is because this is the expectation of my school, level 4 for me means the kid is in the reflection desk. They are there. They are right next to the door. They have refused to fill out the reflection, or they filled out the reflection, we created a plan, and then they proceeded to not follow the plan. So now they're back at the reflection desk. Level 4 means I'm contacting the adults in their life. And the adults in their life includes other teachers that they have, includes the counselor. I throw as many people as possible into that group. If it's the first time, I just do a communication out. If it's the second time they're reaching level 4, I want a meeting where the student attends, because is this a only I'm having this issue with the student, or is this a everybody that has a student is having similar issues and we need to create a plan as a team?
Which is this is the same levels as the elementary, except the difference is so far as that the self-isolation is to a boring place instead of just a quiet place.
Right.
And then the communication for the elementary dogs is more or less, once they say how they feel, it kind of solves its own problem a lot of the time.
You can solve a lot of problems in elementary with a hug, or a high five, or a fist bump.
Whereas here you're using that communication to develop an us plan together that might be a specifically tailored solution based upon the results of that communication, not just the communication itself as an end.
Well, and I didn't say this, but I think this is important. It's acknowledging the student as an independent, autonomous person. They're at the meeting. They should run the meeting. If I'm having a meeting where I'm discussing, Jared's behaviors, Jared should be the one that's there and leading us and explaining. And if I want to change your behavior, you're going to choose that. I can't force that upon you.
But level 4 is bring other adults in is basically the same for both groups.
Right. And I will do level 4. If I think I'm making progress with level 4, I will stay there. Technically, I think I have it written down that the third time at level 4 goes to a major and you have to leave the classroom. Obviously, if level 4 gets skipped, if you refuse to go to the reflection desk and sit there, then now you're a major because you're preventing others from learning.
Right.
And so now, obviously, it's going right to the office. But another thing to consider is think about how the office reacts when they know, because I'm communicating all of this out to the office. They know I am fair and consistent. This is my plan. This is what I followed. And if a kid shows up at the office, I also will call the office and I will say, they're at a level 4. I'm going to be putting together a meeting. Nothing needs to be done in the office. They just need a place to be.
With the elementary dogs, you had a kind of a level 5 that was, hey, I need someone an adult to come to the room. Is that apply at the secondary level, or is that a different thing?
Technically, if I need someone to come and get them, that means they're essentially reaching level 5 when they refuse to go to the reflection desk. But if a kid will sit at the reflection desk and not bother anyone else, then I just let them sit there. And for the most part, it's in elementary, a kid at a level 5, they're not in control of their emotions.
They're not controlling their own behavior.
But it's rare.
That really doesn't, with most secondary CAT students, they're either choosing this or they're choosing, it's not because they're so upset or something that they're not really deciding
and as long
their own
as
actions.
Right, and as long as I haven't shifted over to the them category, because they will ramp that stuff up and you will need someone in your room if they feel like you are on opposing sides. But if you're on the same team and it's the poster that's telling me what to do, it does happen, but it's really rare that they won't comply with the expectation at the level 4. Okay. We should maybe switch over to homework now.
Yeah, I asked about homework a while ago, and you said, we'll get back to that. So let's get back to it.
Okay.
That type of preparedness behavior is it's too late to fix now. It was something you were supposed to have done or you didn't. It's kind of a different type of category. You can't just reflect on it, I assume. What do you do?
That's a really good way to say it, actually, Jared, because that is true. These are those behaviors that the kid can't undo. The milk has already been spilled. It has already happened. And you want to reduce the damage so that as much learning as possible can happen in the classroom. Also, it wouldn't logically make sense that the third time a kid doesn't bring their pencil, you're now sending them to the office. Or the third time the kid doesn't bring their instrument, you're sending them to the office. You've got the kids struggling with logistics.
But that's my escalating behavior.
Right, so this is why you need a separate plan. Okay? Coming up with a label, depending on, maybe you have homework and you have this thing kids need to bring every time. But for most teachers, it's something like homework. This plan now, I like to think of it as I want my garden to self-weed. So I don't want a kid choosing a poor behavior to make more work for me than for them.
Wait, do gardens actually self-weed? Is that a thing?
Well, you can put down the weed paper and then, then the weeds don't grow.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to prevent the weeds in the first place. You want the garden to tend itself.
By self-weed, I was thinking of I was imagining plants reaching down and killing the weeds next to them. But this is self-weed is prevent.
Right. And all the work is not done by you.
Okay, so how does it work?
Okay, so I recommend a ticket system. Oh, I should include I use tardies in the same kind of system.
It's generally prepared for class type stuff.
It's too late.
And you can't become untardy. It's like, I wasn't thinking straight Johanna or whatever your students call you. Probably not Johanna. I'm gonna be untardy now. Like
right.
It's done.
It's done.
The bell is rung.
Right. So I have a form that kids have to fill out, and I essentially use the quiet zone. So right when they come in, they're not entering the classroom proper. They have to fill out this documentation form. It's short because I don't want to take from the learning time. I mean, you might only have 40 minutes.
It's just an acknowledgement.
It's paperwork. I don't have to document that the kid that's tardy because I'm going to get this form, and this form's going to tell me the kid's tardy or forgot their instrument or didn't do their homework. And the form is going to increase communication because that's always our point. The kid could have a perfectly valid reason as to why they were tardy or the homework didn't get done or whatever X, Y, and Z thing that has already happened. And they want a chance to be able to be like, this is why this happened. And so you really have to work hard to, again, enforce that this isn't a punishment. This is just what happens. This is the rules. This is the poster. It is on the wall. This is what we do. Come into class late or you don't have your homework done or whatever it is, you fill out a form.
So do they feel guilty or ashamed or anything that like they didn't get their homework done or like...
If they do, you're doing it wrong and they're going to make a behavior problem out of it.
So if they're not feeling guilty, then what's going to make them do better next time?
So then you have to have a ramp-up procedure that is different from your behavior levels. So for example, let's say it's homework or tardies. Maybe you're going to say that the first 2 times they're tardy or don't have their homework done, those are freebies. You fill out a form, that's it. You're done. Okay?
Don't even feel bad?
Don't even feel bad. You hand me your form, sit on down, I'll read it, all's good. Right? And I will follow up. Like maybe a kid tells you if a kid has a lot to say, they'll turn that form over and they'll write more on the back. Trust me, they will do it, particularly not to connect to genders, but the girls will go into a story if there is one. So take the time, to their face, take the time, read the form, and then be like, oh gosh, yeah, do you need to go back to the restroom? Show empathy, even if you're like, seriously, this is not a real thing. Show them empathy, and then move on, okay? But then, after maybe time 2 or whatever your level is, now you're going to want to have an increase in natural consequence.
What's a natural consequence?
A natural consequence is something that makes total sense as to why it happened. I spilled the milk, now I have to clean the milk.
Okay.
Right?
So how does that work for tardies?
I was tardy twice, now I'm going to let my parent know or a teacher know or some adult who cares about me, it depends how your school's set up, who this influential person might be. I'm going to let them know that this was the 3rd time I was tardy.
Okay.
Okay? I like to use text messages or an email, but again, it's on the student. The student's going to stay in that seating, right? They're filling out their form. I'm checking my records to see oh, look, I have 2 other forms. We're now at form 3. Who do you want to contact and let them know that this is your 3rd tardy? Are you in trouble?
No, we're just saying this happened.
We're just saying I'm struggling to get to class. Okay? I like to include there what's going to happen the next time.
Which is?
Now we're going to have a conversation. So the 4th time, the parent...
You and me and they are going to talk.
Yep.
Okay.
Real quick, super quick. We're going to go in the hall, we're going to leave a message on their phone, their cell phone, or we're going to go in the hall, we're going to type out a quick email, but we're going to, as a team, say we're struggling to do our homework. But that's not the main thing. What's a potential solution? And the kid's going to come up with a solution.
Okay.
That's on them. Not on the parent, not on me. The kid's going to have a solution.
And of course that will work, but if it doesn't?
Time 5, they are now going to have, for me it was family. They are going to take a document home that they need to fill out where them and the adult at home are formally coming up with a plan about how to make sure there's no time 6.
So the 4th time is their plan. 5th time is their and their adult's plan.
Yep, they're signing off.
And then time 6 never happens? Or if it does, I mean, at a certain point,
I'm not sure I've ever had a time 6, but time 6 is, I put it on my administration, time 6 is, you and the principal are now going to create a plan.
At a certain point, you're into the official school management plan, right? Like,
if your school has a plan, but your school might not have a tardy plan, or they might not have one that's effective. I will tell you, I didn't run into tardy issue. I tend to go with the plan that's effective. So, if however that works in your school or county or district or whatever, but time 6 is now the administration's getting involved and we need to make a plan. Because now this is impacting your learning. And potentially the learning of others.
Or potentially your safety. Like something is happening in between classes or what that's keeping you from getting the class or you're doing something, right?
I did think of a homework example. It wasn't mine, it was another teacher's, but just that student didn't have a home life where homework happening at home was an option. And so we created a plan where the student could do homework in the office. And they weren't in trouble. No one was in trouble. It's just that was the truth of it. If you wanted their homework to be done, they needed a time where they were told you're going to go here and there's going to be an adult that's like not doing anything but just kind of looking over you and you're going to do your homework.
Okay. And that was just a level 6 one and it worked.
Another option teachers can do is however their levels go, they can then essentially say like at a certain point, let's say instrument. Not bringing your instrument maybe the 4th time now equals moving to level 3 on your regular behavior plan, or now moves to level 4 on your. So whatever you can make whatever rules you want. They just have to be pre-made, pre-communicated, posted up, and then also I like to send a document home to parents for them to sign so that everyone knows in advance in the very beginning with every single kid. These are the rules. These are how I will handle the breaking of the rules. But again, it's
that way. If I'm a parent, I get that text message at level 3 if the preparedness stuff. Like I don't need to worry about what's going on. It's because my child has reached this level on that behavior plan, and
sure, right.
I can get involved appropriately. But it's not like, wait, what's happening? Why is the teacher calling me?
Well, it's an ounce of prevention, like we've talked about before. Me communicating all of this in advance, as these are the rules of our classroom, or if you think about it like a game, this is the structure of our classroom. Let me tell you, I am the teacher that they are not going to be tardy for. They might be tardy for the next teacher because the next teacher is just going to yell at them and then in 2 minutes it's over. But when they know that this exists, they're like, whoo, right? And same with parents. I might send 500 of these forms home and there might be one parent that calls me. I would rather have that conversation with that parent before their child has ever done anything wrong.
Right.
It is not fair that my child, that you're gonna call me at work the 3rd time my kid doesn't have their homework done. That's not fair. You can't do that. Well, it's not happened yet. So even if that's a hard conversation to have,
much easier than having
so much easier
in a live fire situation.
And if you're like, okay, if that's not comfortable for you, what's a better way for me to communicate to you if we happen to get there, which I'm sure we won't, because it's very clear your student cares desperately about school, so this won't be a concern in the first, so
look at you
easier.
managing the parents too. That's fun.
We'll get into parents another time.
Okay. Do we know everything about how to train the cats now?
I think so. Should we recap?
Let's
maybe?
recap.
Yeah.
So they're cats, not dogs.
Cats, not dogs.
They're more adult humans that are deciding to do actions rather than just driven to do actions by their mood or whatever. So the key is to not be us versus them.
Nice memory. Yes, not us versus them.
you're going to have your predicted misbehaviors for your behavior management plan that go up on a poster, and it becomes like a game. And that there's no reason to be mad at the shoots. You just landed on the square, and then this is what the game board says. This is what the poster says. This is the consequence. And we have the same basic levels as we did with the elementary dog plan, which is, what's the first level?
You have a certain amount where it's self-isolation.
Self-isolation.
Told to self-isolate.
Told to self-isolate.
Communication, reflection
the
desk.
Reflection desk. Told to, forced to go to the communication reflection desk.
Well, level 4, yeah, that didn't work. And now we're communicating out to parents, other teachers, any adults who could help to potentially find a solution is level 4. And then I guess level 5 would technically be kid refuses to go to that desk, which should be extremely rare. And now you're calling to have the kid
and the difference
pick
is
up or go to the office.
The differences between this plan and the elementary plan, even though they were broadly similar, is that the self-isolation is, instead of to just a quiet place where they might have like a simple game or something to help them stay content in the self-isolation, this is a boring place.
Boring. There is nothing.
So they're not engaging with learning, and they're allowed to do that, but there's nothing to entertain them while they're not engaging.
They will entertain themselves with some little thing on their sleeve. I mean, you want it to be as boring as possible.
And then the self-reflection with the younger kids is usually more of an end in itself, and that they, by expressing how they feel, it largely solves its problem a lot of the time. Here we're using what's communicated to create an us situation where you know and I know what's wrong, and we can figure out a plan together on how to make it better.
Right, and that does happen at the elementary, but the solution tends to be a hug or a high five or a fist bump, and it's obviously more complex at the secondary level.
Standard disclaimer, both of these things can happen. There are cats in elementary, there are dogs in secondary. It's not a perfect division, it's just a...
Correct.
Because you've said that about 12 times. It's like, yes, sometimes, but
Well,
we're painting in broad strokes.
Broad strokes.
Any of these lessons, depending upon the circumstances of the individual, could apply to either situation.
Correct.
We also have the separate category of bells that can't be unrung type behavior issues where something was supposed to happen and it didn't. And we need to create natural escalating consequences for those. I didn't do my homework, I didn't show up to class on time, I didn't bring my instrument to band. And that's its own type of category in the behavior management plan, because there's no way for the student to fix that in the moment.
Right. I think I should add one little caveat there.
We're not allowed to add new things during...
The wrap-up. I know, but I do think this needs to be said.
You're not going to win any debate points. The Lincoln Douglas joke is going to be said.
Fine. I don't want any debate points, but...
What do you want to add?
My world was made easier when handouts, pencils, basically anything a kid needed to engage in the learning was always in the classroom. Don't create a problem.
Good point, I think. I mean, yeah. Unless your goal is to teach them to bring pencils to class, then why are you letting that get in the way of what you are trying to just give them pencils?
Right. And make them take a shoe off, or I don't care what, but prevent as much as you can in the first place.
Sure.
It's just easier.
Right.
Because I'm an adult who has a full-time job, and you know what? I sometimes show up to a meeting without a pen, and guess what? There's a little caddy of pens at the table.
Because why not?
Right.
Okay. And then with our natural consequences, we're going to keep increasing the communication just like the other behavior plan. Let the student come up with a plan. Let the student and their adult come up with a plan. Let the student in the office come up with a plan. But still not falling into a us versus them trap.
Where the work is put on the shoulders of the student, not on the shoulders of the teacher.
Okay. Do we have it covered?
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you, Johanna.
Thanks, Jared. Thank you for listening to
Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life.